One of the lesser-known legends of Russia's valor in the Second World War involves a gentleman named Sergei Surovikin. Surovikin was a Soviet peasant leader during World War II. He led a large partisan unit known as the Surovikin Partisan Detachment. It was composed mostly of Ukrainian peasants. The detachment was formed in 1942. It operated behind the German lines in western Ukraine. It conducted sabotage and reconnaissance missions. Surovikin's detachment was able to carry out large-scale operations from deep behind the German enemy lines. They attacked German supply lines, communications and infrastructure, and also disrupted the German occupation of Ukraine. They also provided valuable intelligence to the Soviet Red Army and helped organize resistance amongst the local Ukrainian population. They were also able to cross the border into Poland, Czechoslovakia, and even into Hungary. Sergei Surovikin's leadership style was unorthodox. He was a charismatic leader. He was known for his courage, his ability to inspire others, and most importantly, his ability to improvise. The Surovikin detachment was one of the most successful partisan units of the Second World War. It's credited with the destruction of more than 400 enemy vehicles, the killing or capturing of more than 10,000 German soldiers, and the liberation of several towns and villages, including the capital, Kiev. Sergei Surovikin was awarded the Medal of the Hero of the Soviet Union for his liberation of Ukraine in the Second World War. 75 years later, Russian President Vladimir Putin is desperately searching for another hero of the Soviet Union, for another Sergei Surovikin. And he has turned to his longtime trusted ally, the Chief of General Staff, General Valery Gerasimov. General Gerasimov, who helped plan Russia's stumbling invasion last February, is Putin's longest-serving Chief of General Staff. He has replaced General Sergei Surovikin as the head of the Russian forces in Ukraine. General Surovikin, who is known as General Armageddon, had previously commanded Russian forces in Syria. He was installed to lead Russia's campaign in Ukraine back in October. He is now going to be one of 3 deputies to General Gerasimov. He has been changed after just 3 months into the job. So on Crux Decode, what does this latest military maneuver mean in the overall context of this war, which is fast approaching its first year? Is Vladimir Putin cutting General Surovikin down to size? Is it an acknowledgement that not even General Armageddon could turn around this faltering special military operation? Or is Vladimir Putin sending a signal to Surovikin's closest military ally, Yevgeny Prigozhin, the head of the private military contractor, the Wagner Group? The replacement of General Sergei Surovikin with a Kremlin apparatchik like General Gerasimov shows that President Putin remains focused on projecting stability rather than improving Russia's darkening military outlook. Basically, they have taken someone who is considered competent and replaced him with someone who is incompetent. But then, loyalty always makes up for incompetence. Under General Surovikin, the Russian military largely switched to defensive mode. His brief was clear: reduce the military failures that had characterized the first half of the war. He was able to conduct an orderly retreat from the southern city of Kherson. Remember, Kherson is the only Ukrainian provincial capital captured by Russia in the last year. But General Surovikin, who earned a reputation for his ruthlessness in Syria, also launched waves of missile and drone attacks. The aim of these missile and drone attacks was to cripple Ukraine's energy grid as the winter set in. The strategy seemed intended to demoralize the Ukrainian people and erode their will to fight. But that strategy did not work. Ukraine was quickly able to restore its energy grid after every Russian attack. A warmer than expected winter has also helped. Ukrainian morale right now, both in the military and in the civilian population, is higher ever than before since this war began. General Gerasimov's appointment was met with derision from some nationalist Russian military bloggers. They've in fact even compared the military reshuffle to a game of musical chairs amongst Moscow's military old guard. These nationalist bloggers have become increasingly vocal, particularly in recent weeks, calling for a complete overhaul of Russia's approach to this war. The sum does not change just by changing the parts. That was what one prominent military blogger wrote on his Telegram channel. By tapping his senior-most military officer, Vladimir Putin is signaling that it is now up to the third most important figure in Russia's military hierarchy, after him and Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, to rectify the situation in Ukraine. General Gerasimov is the longest-serving Chief of General Staff since the collapse of the Soviet Union. He can boast of a solid CV, he's had past successes in Chechnya and in Crimea. He's also seen as a moderating influence on the course of the war, and most importantly, he is someone who Washington can work with. He is no General Armageddon like Surovikin is, but it's not clear how much of an impact he can have on the course of this war. From a strictly military point of view, the reshuffle is simply confirmation that there's going to be serious offensives coming, and that even Vladimir Putin recognizes that poor military coordination has been an issue. The real significance of this shakeup, though, could be political. There is a massive war going on right now, a war for influence between Russia's regular army and the paramilitary Wagner group led by billionaire businessman Yevgeny Prigozhin. The army's standing in Moscow has been seriously eroded by a string of setbacks in Ukraine. The most humiliating one was what happened on New Year's Eve, the deadly missile strike on Russian barracks in Makivka. It exposed the military's command incompetence, but in contrast, Prigozhin and his mercenaries have been flexing their muscles in the gruesome battle for Solidar. This week, they have claimed to have single-handedly defeated the Ukrainian defenders in this Donbass town. Annoyed by Wagner's banter, the Russian army rushed to point out that fighting was still going on and that Russian regular paratroopers were very much involved in this battle. Now, while the outcome of the bloodbath in Solidar is still uncertain, the Wagner group has already won the PR battle. It has managed to cement the perception in Moscow that Prigozhin's militiamen are better than Russia's regular army. And this has given further ammunition to the military's ultranationalist circles and allowed Prigozhin to score points against his rival at the Kremlin, who happens to be Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu. The two of them, that is Prigozhin and Shoigu, and in this case Surovikin and Shoigu, simply cannot stand each other. They detest each other. Every move of theirs between Surovikin and Shoigu should be read as an attempt to weaken the other in the eyes of Vladimir Putin. Also, given the context and the timing, one plausible reading of Gerasimov's appointment is to see it as a warning by Putin to Prigozhin. Don't think that you can do whatever you like, claim whatever fanciful claim you want to claim, and think that you can get away with it. As one of Shoigu's closest collaborators, the new commander-in-chief, Gerasimov, is likely to allow the Wagner group much less freedom than his predecessor did. The outcome of this war may well be decided not between Russians and Ukrainians, but by the infighting within Russian military men themselves.